for this announcement that we are all here to witness between the Kikitani Inuit Association, the Government of Canada, through the Prime Minister, and the donor community. I want to start by recognizing the people in the room: Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, President Hulayuk Akrusuk. Also, we have Jeremy Tunaluk here, President of Nunavut Tungavik, and then all of you who have made this possible, any other elected officials, and especially from the NGO and the philanthropic communities. Wonderful that we could all do this together. Starting in the 1970s, Inuit struck out to create modern comprehensive land claim agreements, or modern treaties as we call them. And that started with land use and occupancy studies. We had to justify that we in fact own the land, that we have an unbroken bond with the land from before Canada as a confederation until the very present day. We satisfied all of those requirements. We created modern treaties, and we are now implementing those modern treaties. Over 40% of Canada's landmass, over 70% of Canada's coastline, 8% of the world's fresh water resides within the comprehensive claim areas of our modern treaties. And with that comes great responsibility. Not only that we as Inuit share with all living things and the natural environment that sustains us, but also the relationships that we have with the Crown and also the relationships that we have with the global community. We align on areas of conservation. We align on areas of economic development. We want the best for Inuit Nunangat, which is what we call our homeland. And that comes in many different constructive arrangements. So the agreements that we're here to celebrate today are great examples of the way Inuit have worked constructively with Canada as a nation state to ensure that we can protect our oceans, we can protect our terrestrial lands, and that we as Inuit can self-determine throughout all that process the way in which we choose to fit within this country, and the way that our ideals about what you might call conservation or protection can be translated within an Inuit context, and that we can create an Inuit-specific reality for what that looks like within Canada. So I'm so proud to see all of this in action, and it's not possible without leadership. So the leadership from Nunavut Tungavik, from Kikitani Inuit Association, from the Government of Canada through the Prime Minister and ministers responsible, but also from the global community, because I know this has come together as a shared area of interest. I want to pause and just thank this Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, for the reconciliation work that he has done with Inuit over these past 10 years. We have moved the bar when it comes to the implementation of our existing rights, the implementation of our land claim agreements, the imagination of what's possible in the areas of conservation and environmentalism, and the acceptance that climate change is real and that we have to mitigate and adapt to any possible way we can to the worst effects that it might have on our homeland, Inuit Nunangat. This also is not just one person. We want to thank all ministers and all deputies and all people who are responsible for these decisions within line departments to ensure that we could have a whole-of-government response to what Inuit have articulated in this case as a whole-of-government need. Justin Trudeau is known to Inuit from the time he was a young boy. I've heard hundreds of Inuit say that they babysat the Prime Minister. And I think the interpretation, I think, of that from our communities, from when the Prime Minister visits Inuit Nunangat, is not an association with a person, but a connection with a community. And Inuit have seen you as an ally and have seen you as a part of our community. And we now see this in the way in which you are spending your time and spending your focus to ensure that Inuit Nunangat receives greater protection and that Inuit are benefiting from it as well. With that, I'd like to introduce the Prime Minister to the podium.
Bonjour tout le monde. Hello everyone. Merci de vous joindre à Nathan, Olayok et Caroline, Mike et moi pour une annonce qu'on fait à Montréal, mais qui concerne l'ensemble du pays et tout particulièrement le Nord canadien. Le Nord, c'est un endroit exceptionnel, avec des animaux quasi fantastiques et des paysages uniques où les eaux rencontrent la glace. Comme Nathan a dit, mes premières visites avec mon père ont marqué mon enfance. C'est avec lui que j'ai appris à aimer les paysages, le climat, mais surtout les gens du Nord canadien. C'est pour ça d'ailleurs que depuis des années maintenant, chaque fois que je me rends dans le Nord, j'essaye d'amener un de mes enfants avec moi pour leur faire découvrir à leur tour toute cette beauté de cet endroit incroyable. Vous comprendrez donc que le Nord canadien, je l'ai à cœur. Mais c'est aussi une priorité pour notre gouvernement, qu'on parle de souveraineté, de renforcer notre présence militaire ou, comme aujourd'hui, qu'on soit en train de parler de créer de bons emplois et de protéger l'environnement en même temps. Guidés par ceux qui ont pris soin de ces terres depuis des temps immémoriaux, les Inuits, on va protéger cet endroit extraordinaire et tous ceux qui y vivent. Aujourd'hui, on vous annonce une très bonne nouvelle et honnêtement, c'est pas de trop. Je vous avoue que par moments, comme vous tous, je suis inquiet pour l'avenir de notre planète. Mais je suis convaincu que, ultimement, on va gagner notre lutte contre les changements climatiques et contre la destruction de notre environnement. C'est extraordinaire ce que les humains peuvent accomplir quand on pousse tous du même bord. Protéger l'environnement, c'est pas juste protéger des paysages, c'est protéger des écosystèmes. Et pour ça, il faut protéger la biodiversité. Animals and insects, not just in the north, but across our country, play fundamental roles in our environment. They do work that we all too often take for granted, whether it's beavers that mitigate the risks of fires, floods, and droughts, frogs that control the pests that plague our gardens, or bees, flies, and wasps that pollinate our farmers' fields. When we invest to protect and safeguard biodiversity, we protect those who protect us, our environment, and our livelihoods. In 2018, we launched Canada's Nature Legacy Initiative, which at the time was the single largest investment in nature conservation in Canadian history, and funded projects by organizations and Indigenous communities across the country to protect species at risk and their habitat. Then in 2022, I was here in Montreal for the Nature COP, COP 15, where Canadian leadership, shout out to Stephen Guilbeault, was crucial for the world to agree on ambitious goals, notably that of protecting 30% of lands, 30% of waters around the world by 2030. And because Canada takes this engagement seriously, we announced an investment of $800 million for 4 major Indigenous-led conservation projects that would help us reach that goal. Last year, we launched the first such project, that of the Great Bear Sea, to protect British Columbia's coastland over an area the size of Ireland. Dallas, it's great to have you here today as well. That same year, we also signed a second agreement in the Northwest Territories to protect over 37 million hectares of land. Well, today, we're taking another step. We're announcing the signing of the CINA project, Finance for Permanence Agreement, between the Government of Canada, the Kiktani Inuit Association, and the Pew Charitable Trusts. With this agreement, we will protect over 3.5% more of Canada's marine area by supporting Inuit-led conservation initiatives to ensure the long-term health of northern environments. In so doing, we're also building an economy based on conservation, creating jobs where Inuit knowledge will be leveraged and valued to protect northern ecosystems, and investing in community infrastructure like the Arctic Bay Small Craft Harbour. Speaking of Arctic Bay, that's where Minister Gary Anandasangari is today for an important announcement. Otherwise, I know he would have loved to have been here celebrating with you all. It is so good to be here today to witness this project take shape and to celebrate this accomplishment with all of you. I have to thank, obviously, the Kiktani Inuit Association, its board, and the negotiators who've made today's announcement possible, as well as the charitable organizations that have taken part. Je veux aussi, évidemment, remercier mes collègues Stephen Guilbeault et Diane Leboutillier, qui ont aussi travaillé très fort pour qu'on en arrive là. Now, when I first became Prime Minister almost 10 years ago, less than 1% of Canada's oceans were protected. We're now nearing the 17% mark, and I know everyone is going to keep working really hard to reach our goal of protecting 30% of our oceans by 2030. There's lots more work to do, and you will always be able to count on me as your ally. I was working with CPAWS to protect Canada's nature long before working in politics, and I will always, for the rest of my life, be deeply committed to protecting Canada's lands and waters. But of course, I will also be urging my successor to continue this work, notably by partnering with the Omushkigo people in Ontario to make our fourth Indigenous-led project, Finance for Permanence, a reality. Canada's north is truly a magical place with near mythical animals like narwhals and the famous polar bears who've become an icon for the conservation movement across the globe. By taking action to protect northern ecosystems, we're also protecting these wonders. We're doing it for those who've lived there for countless generations. We're doing it for Canadians, but we're also doing it for people everywhere around the world, including all those yet to be born. Thank you for the work you've done here. Merci, mes amis. Kuyanamik. I'm now very pleased to let Olayok, president of the Kiktani Inuit Association, to tell you a bit more from his perspective about this project. Olayok.
Unusakut, when me tamang waxmagatsi, that's mga pimakamawatinu, taman na pilagari balas malabut, takwagama to hakut, eknaya hati chutigo, amatamakwa eknayakti tamani hujagilagitabut, tamatumanga kalusitimatiluvi. I just want to say thank you in my language first before I start talking the English language. Again, thank you very much for giving us an opportunity to say a few words of a big celebration that we are very proud of. Again, thank you, Mr. Prime Minister Trudeau, also Nathan Obed, and our President from Nunavut Tungavik, Jeremy Tungale, for coming here, along with Pew Charitable Trust and Oceans North, of course, and all the staff members that has contributed towards this important initiative that we have of signing the CINA agreement. As you can see, Hikitani is a big area of the region in Canada, all the way from Grise Fiat all the way down to Sanikiluaq, and that's 13 communities that we represent to ensure that we do our very best to have ocean conservation areas and land. It's important for us. Again, we have a great staff along with Oceans North that went to 13 communities 3 times to ensure that everybody understands what we're trying to do. And they've done a great job. I just want to wish them very much a great job that they did to ensure that our people understand what we're trying to do and how important it is for us to have a conservation area. And also the team from Government of Canada that has done a great job. We signed in 2023 in October to make an agreement that we have a memorandum of understanding that will ensure that we have a conservation area led by Inuit, led for Inuit, and to ensure that we have something in place. I always say this, that we've been living here in our area for thousands of years, and our people has been very conservative and conservationist for that, and we're very proud of that. Again, we ensure that the Inuit knowledge is part of this important signing of SINA agreement. As you could see, it's very beautiful in our area. This is just one area, a picture of our area, but we have a massive, very big area that we are very proud of. And now working on 30 by 30 is something that we really want to see as Inuit and led by Inuit to ensure that these conservation are in place for our future grandkids and great-grandkids that are going to be there. And the Inuit, the economic growth that we also want to see within that. We're not leaving out potential economic development in our area, but we want to ensure that our oceans are in place and safe for our people and is there for our people. And of course, for everybody that goes up there. It's a beautiful place. Again, we have Nautsitokti that are a big part of our jobs that are there, that will be there. For the Prime Minister also signed in 2019 has done a great job for us. It's something that we're very proud of. That will be there for a long time. And a very good example of how Inuit and the government and the people could work together to ensure we have something that will be here for a long time, that will be recognized by the world. When I went to Impact 5 in Vancouver, that was something that really helped me with the vision that we should have under our region of Hikiktaluk. Again, I don't want to forget my board that has supported our goal to have conservation areas. Without the board support, it would be very hard. And to ensure that we do our very best job to have conservation that will help us out in the long run for our people. Having a conservation area is something that will create employment opportunities for us and for every community in Baffin region, which is 13. There's 3 Inuit organizations, and we owe 51% of the people that we represent in that region of Nunavut. For me, it's something that I will be very proud of to ensure that we do this. Again, the ITK, NTI, the Government of Canada, the philanthropic organizations has done a great job working together to ensure that the people who we represent understands what we're trying to do, how it will help us in the long run, and how Inuit could be the lead on any conservation in Canada. This is very important for the whole Canada. As I said, I went to Impact 5. There was 162 different Aboriginal groups that were there. And I understand a lot from that, how important it is to have these conservations in Canada to ensure that we are understood around the world too, that Inuit are leaders of their own region, of their own territory, And when ICPC, I go to these meetings and understand how and the purpose of that. Prime Minister Trudeau hasn't done a great job in 10 years' time as a Prime Minister to ensure he recognizes our people, our Inuit Nunangat. And I'm very proud of that, and along with Natan, that has worked very hard to ensure that this goes ahead. It is important that we unite as Inuit to ensure that we work together, and also with the Aboriginal groups around Canada, that we could work together and set an example to the world that we could certainly run our conservation areas, whether it's on the ocean, inland. Again, I'm very thankful for giving us an opportunity to do this. This is a big milestone for us. This is something that will help us out in the long run, and to ensure that we could show the world that we could work together in our world. It's something that I'm very proud to be a Canadian, that we could work together, and we're 40 million plus people that will work together to ensure we recognize each other. And unity is something that will also be a big part of us. As Inuit, we always work together in the community. We always been working together, and that's how we want to see this as a working group, to ensure that we have something in place that will help us out, that will increase economic opportunities, increase protection of our ocean and land. And that is what we want to see, and this is very important for us, having signed the SINA agreement. Again, thank you very much, and it's something we're very proud of, and we'll still work very hard to represent our people to ensure these agreements are implemented the way it's signed. So thank you very much.
It's such an honor to be here today, to pause and celebrate so much. And it has been very articulately already shared. So I will be brief. I'm thrilled to be acknowledging on behalf of the funder partners the hard work that has been done to get to today's announcement, the signing of the SINA agreement. I want to acknowledge President Ulayak, President Obed, and Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, our esteemed guests, our partners, and also the other funder partners who are with us today and not able to be here as well. My name's Carolyn. I work for a Canadian philanthropic partner to the PFPs that have been mentioned, and for communities and species that don't have voices. So I am very thrilled, and especially because 2 years ago at the COP announcement here in Montreal, when Prime Minister Trudeau announced $800 million for Indigenous-led conservation on behalf of the Government of Canada, I was at home watching the live stream with the newborn in my lap. So I'm thrilled to be able to be present today. On my way leaving Vancouver, I heard the very welcome sound of a migrating songbird. She comes every year. I know her song. She only stays a few weeks, and then she travels north on an incredible journey that is epic, frankly. The journey to get to today's announcement's also been epic. I want to acknowledge 10 strong years of Inuit-led governance, a vision that has been rooted from community consent that is very important to us. The Kikitani Inuit Association really deserves a lot of commendation for their clear vision and for the pathway that they have led us on to get to today's announcement. Today, I represent the private philanthropic partners, and we share our gratitude and our excitement. The PFP model, the Project Finance for Permanence model, I even struggle to say it, it's not a sexy title, but it is a very thoughtful model. And one of the reasons that I'd like to emphasize how thoughtful it is because it's rooted in strong governance. It has a strong financial model behind it. There's durable policy, and most importantly, there is community consent and vision. And a lot of time has been put into ensuring those 13 communities understand what we are working towards and what will be done that will affect their lives and their communities in the upcoming years as the agreement is being implemented. Philanthropic partners have brought $70 million collectively to catalyze the $200 million announced today and 2.5 years ago. This is a greater match than 4-to-1, and I just want to acknowledge that the PFP model itself is going to be something that will result in the whole indeed being greater than the sum of the parts. Public-private partnerships like this don't happen very often, especially in the conservation and economic development and reconciliation communities that we are celebrating today. As President Olejnik explained, I think that today's announcement also takes a meaningful step towards implementation of 30% by 2030 protected and Canada's goals overall. But CENA is so much more than that. It brings many jobs today and into the future to the region. It brings infrastructure so that Guardians have a secure, healthy, and durable place to do their work, so that in turn eyes and ears on the ground are watching and stewarding and caring. And it will also implement the Kikitani Truth Commission's recommendations. In short, this agreement is so many things. That songbird that I mentioned earlier will soon fly north to join many millions of other waterfowl and migrating birds. We are living in tricky times that are compounded by the climate and biodiversity crisis. She will experience much change in the lifetime of her and her generations that come after her. So it's essential, I think, that we work together to apply creative and nimble solutions to these crises. I see this in the CENA agreement and in the goodwill that the partners who've signed it have brought. I think it really honors an Inuit-led vision, and I think that that's something that also that all Canadians will benefit from. And the polar bears, the narwhals, the waterfowl, the prairie caribou, maybe the lichen. They don't care about project for finance for permanence. They don't really care about the financial models or the governance that has got us to this place. They care about clean air, clean water. They care about having habitat that's healthy so that they can raise their young. These are things that as humans, I think we ought to remember that we also need and care about so that we can survive. So that year over year, we can ensure that there's health to the ecosystems and the landscapes, the air and the water that we all rely on, so our children and grandchildren can thrive. So I just want to hold my hands up, as I've said, and I will continue to say thank you to the Inuit-led vision that has gotten us to this place, and I look forward to the next 10 years, which will not always be easy, but together I know we can achieve so much. And I will pass the mic over back to Prime Minister Trudeau.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you very much. So we will now take 20 minutes of questions, 20 minutes de questions. Une question, un suivi. One question, one follow-up. Merci. Thank you.
Bonjour, M. Trudeau, Anne-Sophie Jobin pour TVA Nouvelles. Vous ne serez pas surpris qu'on vous parle de tarifs aujourd'hui. Ça inquiète beaucoup. Je sais que votre ministre de la Sécurité publique est à Washington en ce moment pour discuter des avancements là, en termes de fentanyl, mais M. Trump a encore répété ce matin, il va y en avoir des tarifs. Est-ce qu'il reste quelque chose à faire pour essayer de les contrer?
Bien, tout d'abord, on est en train de travailler jour et nuit avec un but, éviter que des tarifs soient imposés mardi prochain et dans les semaines qui vont suivre sur d'autres choses. Pour mardi, on est en train de parler, le président est en train de parler de la crise du fentanyl. Et à ce niveau, comme vous soulignez, on a des ministres à Washington aujourd'hui pour présenter les faits sur le terrain. La réalité, je le dis depuis des mois maintenant, moins que 1% du fentanyl qui arrive aux États-Unis passe par le Canada. Moins de 1% des arrivants irréguliers aux États-Unis passent par le Canada. Mais même à ça, on est en train de réduire encore plus ces nombres parce qu'on sait que même des petites quantités de fentanyl peuvent être meurtrières. On l'a vu, il le voit aux États-Unis, mais on l'a vu à travers notre pays aussi avec des communautés qui ont été impactées par des tragédies épouvantables. C'est pour ça qu'on peut souligner, par exemple, qu'entre le mois de décembre et le mois de janvier, on a vu une diminution d'autour de 90 une augmentation de 90 dans les saisies de fentanyl à la frontière canadienne. On est en train d'investir, on est en train de démontrer que le Canada n'est pas source de problème. Évidemment, on va continuer de faire ces arguments au président pour démontrer que cette crise des opioïdes, c'est quelque chose sur lequel on devrait travailler ensemble. Alors, nous allons tout faire pour éviter d'avoir ces tarifs, mais comme je l'ai souligné plusieurs fois, si jamais ils vont de l'avant avec ces tarifs injustifiés, on va avoir une réponse forte, immédiate et certaine du Canada. The first thing on tariffs is to emphasize that our government, and indeed all of Team Canada, premiers, business leaders, community leaders, are focused on one thing, making sure that come Tuesday and for the weeks that follow, there are no tariffs imposed on Canada. The tariffs that the President speaks of for next week are centered around the fentanyl crisis that they're facing in the United States, but that we are also facing in Canada. And for months now, I've been emphasizing that less than 1% of the fentanyl that arrives in the United States comes from Canada. But we know that even that 1% or less than 1% should be reduced, which is why we've invested $1.3 billion in strengthening our border capacities with Black Hawk helicopters, with drones, with 10,000 people patrolling our borders and keeping Canadians and Americans safe. And we will continue, as we are this week, with ministers and heads of agencies, including the Commissioner of the RCMP and the head of the CBSA, and our fentanyl czar down in Washington to demonstrate that this is an issue that we should be working together on, and that Canada is not the source of problems for the United States. We will continue to do that work and do everything necessary to avoid these tariffs coming in. But like I said, if on Tuesday there are unjustified tariffs brought in on Canada, we will have an immediate and extremely strong response, as Canadians expect.
Maintenant, question sur votre carrière politique. Il reste environ une semaine et demie là, avant que vous quittiez. On vous rencontre ici une annonce environnementale. Est-ce que c'est un indice possiblement de ce que vous allez faire après le 9 mars? Est-ce que vous avez un petit mot à nous dire là-dessus?
Honnêtement, vous aviez sûrement remarqué que je suis très occupé ces dernières semaines avec des choses qui sont prioritaires pour moi. Surtout les relations entre le Canada et les États-Unis et d'assurer un partenariat continu sur nos valeurs à travers le monde. Je reviens de l'Ukraine où la position du Canada d'être là pour lutter pour les valeurs démocratiques était essentielle. J'ai aussi pu présider sur la première rencontre du G7 de l'année, sur lequel on s'est entendu sur le besoin de créer une paix durable sur l'Ukraine. Je suis ici aujourd'hui pour annoncer un grand projet de conservation de notre nature et de biodiversité en partenariat avec les peuples autochtones. La semaine passée, j'étais à Haida Gwaii pour annoncer une entente historique sur le fait que Haida Gwaii appartient au peuple Haida et à personne d'autre. Avant ça, j'étais en Pologne pour commémorer la libération de l'Auschwitz, du camp de concentration, et la lutte continue contre l'antisémitisme. Il y a beaucoup à faire en tant que premier ministre encore, même dans une semaine ou deux qui nous reste, et je n'ai pas beaucoup réfléchi à ce que je pourrais faire après. Je suis concentré sur la job que je continue de faire à fond aujourd'hui.
Bonjour, Nantou Soumaoro pour Radio-Canada. On est à 5 jours de l'imposition des tarifs. Est-ce que votre plan de riposte reste le même que la dernière fois? Et à partir de quand pouvez-vous le mettre en place?
Comme on a dit, notre priorité, c'est d'éviter carrément que ces tarifs soient imposés, particulièrement sur le raisonnement que c'est au niveau du fentanyl que ça va être imposé parce qu'il n'y a pas une situation d'urgence pour les Américains sur la frontière avec le Canada par rapport au fentanyl et on est en train de démontrer cela. Mais comme j'ai dit, si les Américains vont de l'avant avec les tarifs. On a déjà partagé les détails de notre plan qui reste la même. On a 30 milliards de dollars de tarifs de biens des Américains qui vont recevoir des tarifs dès l'imposition de tarifs sur le Canada. Et on a 155 milliards d'autres biens 125 milliards d'autres biens qui vont suivre 21 jours plus tard. Mais on ne veut pas être dans cette situation-là. On ne veut pas devoir avoir une guerre commerciale entre nos deux pays et on va tout faire pour éviter que ces tarifs soient imposés.
Et le Parti libéral remonte dans les intentions de vote depuis quelques semaines. Est-ce que vous regrettez votre décision de partir?
Vous savez, on a beaucoup fait depuis 10 ans pour créer un pays plus juste où tout le monde a une chance vraie et réelle de réussir. On a créé une économie forte qui est l'envie des autres pays du G7. On a beaucoup accompli, mais il reste beaucoup de travail à faire. C'est pour ça que j'ai bien hâte de voir ce que les Canadiens vont choisir dans les prochaines élections. Est-ce qu'ils vont continuer d'être ambitieux et responsables par rapport à l'avenir qu'on va bâtir ou est-ce qu'ils vont croire que le Canada est brisé et que tout est jeté à la poubelle parce que c'est ce que proposent les conservateurs. Ça va être des élections extrêmement importantes et j'ai bien hâte de voir comment ça va se dérouler.
Hi, Prime Minister Trudeau, Taria Isri, Global News. One of Donald Trump's top advisors, Peter Navarro, reportedly said Canada should be kicked out of the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance and that the border with Canada should be redrawn. Has Donald Trump raised either of those issues in your conversations with him?
In terms of the security partnership, between Canada, the United States, and our other Five Eyes partners, the UK, New Zealand, and Australia, we've been working together on sharing intelligence and keeping our citizens, but also democracies around the world, safe since World War II. It is a partnership that has benefited all of our countries deeply. Canada has one of the best cybersecurity centers in the world in our communication security establishment. We contribute actively to keeping our partners and ourselves safe, and we will continue to do that. I think the advisor in question publicly explained that that was not on the table, and it is totally understandable that it not be on the table because Canadians and Americans and our allies around the world have been working extraordinarily well together to keep our citizens safe, and we will continue to do that. Okay. Ça fait depuis la fin de la Deuxième Guerre mondiale que le Canada, les États-Unis, l'Australie, la Nouvelle-Zélande et le Royaume-Uni travaillent ensemble dans un partenariat Five Eyes pour partager des informations et assurer la sécurité de nos démocraties dans un monde qui demeure incertain. Je pense que le conseiller du président a corrigé le tir en expliquant que non, il n'y a aucune question de laisser tomber ce partenariat 5 Eyes. On va continuer de travailler ensemble parce que ça fonctionne pour protéger nos citoyens.
On the Liberal leadership debate, Mr. Carney had said that the economy was weak before the tariffs, pointing to a surge in immigration and high spending over the last 5 years. He was an advisor to you in that period. Did he advise against either of those things?
As you know, we have outstanding people stepping up to lead the Liberal Party and continue the important work that we've been doing, but also meet the new challenges that the world keeps throwing at Canada with alarming regularity these days, if we're to be honest. So I have tremendous confidence, not just in the people stepping forward to lead this great party and this great country, but in the choice that Canadians will make, first Liberals in choosing the next leader, but then all Canadians in picking a direction for this country. There is a moment right now to highlight the values that Canada believes in, the ambition that we have for an economy where everyone has a real and fair chance to succeed, an economy that, quite frankly, is the strongest in the G7, is among the strongest in the G7 right now, with the lowest debt to GDP ratio of all G7 partners, and a outstanding credit score, AAA credit rating from the international bond rating agencies. We are committed to a brighter future for Canada, and we'll push back against anyone who says that Canadians are broken or Canada is broken. There's always more work to do, but we're all about rolling up our sleeves and getting it done. Quelle partie? Le Canada est un pays qui n'est pas sans défis, mais qui a aussi énormément d'ambition et de capacité de résoudre les défis auxquels on fait face. On sait que les libéraux et par la suite les Canadiens, cette année, vont faire face à des choix importants sur non seulement qui sera le prochain premier ministre, mais comment on va bâtir une économie plus forte, un pays plus fort, des communautés, une société plus juste. Et le contraste entre un parti et un gouvernement qui a toujours mis les gens à l'avant-plan, la protection de l'environnement, la création d'une économie inclusive, et un parti conservateur et un chef conservateur qui ne croit pas au changement climatique, ne croit pas à la réconciliation autochtone, ne croit pas au besoin de se faire donner une cote de sécurité pour qu'ils puissent protéger nos instances de sécurité nationale. Le choix entre un parti, un gouvernement qui va être responsable et ambitieux pour notre pays et un gouvernement qui pense que le pays est brisé et que les Canadiens sont brisés, comme M. Poilievre le pense, c'est un choix que j'ai bien hâte de voir les Canadiens entreprendre dans les prochaines élections.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister. Matt Grillo with CTV News. I'm wondering what you make of the fact that following your announcement of your resignation, the Liberal Party started to do much better and is doing much better in the polls. What do you make of that? What lessons have you learned?
I have consistently said for many years now that as we approach an election, as Canadians actually reflect on the choice being offered to them between a party that has governed this country responsibly, created a strong economy that has the best balance sheet of the G7, lifted hundreds of thousands of kids out of poverty, created jobs, protected the environment, stepped up on fighting climate change in partnership with Indigenous peoples, moved forward on reconciliation, have been responsible and ambitious for this country, versus a party in the Conservatives that just shrug and say everything's broken, that don't believe in taking action against climate change, that don't believe in Indigenous reconciliation, that don't understand that the only way to build a strong economy is to invest in the people that actually make up that economy. The Conservatives continue to push trickle-down theories and tax breaks for the rich while couching it in the language of populism. I've said consistently for years now that as Canadians get closer to actually making a decision about the kind of country they want to live in, the kind of responsible government they want to have, with ambition but grounded in facts and evidence and data, not ideology, that Canadians would take a very careful look at what the different parties are offering and make a responsible choice about moving forward in the right way for Canada at a time where the world is increasingly uncertain and we need thoughtful, rational governance here in Canada.
I'm wondering, following the Four Nations face-off, have you spoken at all with Wayne Gretzky?
I have not.
Hi, good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister. Vanessa Lee with CBC News. In the last few weeks, you seem to be shoring up pieces of your legacy. There's the apology to Inuit families, first pharmacare deal, and your announcement today. What are you still hoping to complete?
The thing that makes Canada the best country in the world isn't that it's perfect, it's that every single day we commit ourselves to the idea that we can be even better than we already are. There is so much more to do in Canada, so much so that sometimes we don't adequately take a moment to pause and reflect on just how much we have accomplished over the past decades and generations as a country. But there's always more to do. And every single day I get to continue to be Prime Minister, I'm going to look to do everything I can to make this country even better, because that's the promise I made to Canadians when I became leader of the Liberal Party back in 2013. And that's a promise that I have stuck with every single day I've had the privilege of serving as Prime Minister. So I'm not slowing down, not for a minute.
And with regards to the tariffs, how are Canadian businesses supposed to cope with this uncertainty? And what is your message to Canadian businesses who are worried that they're not going to be able to survive?
Well, I think one of the messages that has been made clear to businesses across this country and by governments, but not only by governments, by Canadians, is that in this country, we stick up for each other. The number of people who are making choices to buy Canadian, to support a local producer, to buy local agricultural products, businesses that are looking to strengthen their supply chains to include small businesses from across this country instead of south of the border. You know, Canada's a country that has faced challenges before, all throughout our history. Hell, every winter is a challenge for Canadians, and we learn how to get through it by pulling together, by leaning on each other. That's what we did in COVID, that's what we did through global conflicts, that's what we do around fighting climate change. And that's what we do when we're facing economic hardships like a potential trade conflict with the United States. So yeah, if tariffs get brought in, it's going to be hard on Canadians and Canadian businesses. It'll also be hard on Americans and American businesses, which is a point we're busy making south of the border every chance we get. But Canadians will pull together. Governments will be there to support businesses and individuals who are hardest hit, to make sure that we get through this the way we always will, together.
We will take one last question. Dernière question, s'il vous plaît.
Bonjour, M. Trudeau. Pierre Saint-Arnaud de la presse canadienne. Le Telegraph rapporte que les négociateurs canadiens se sont retirés de discussion avec M. Navarro après qu'il ait été question de redessiner la frontière canado-américaine. Est-ce que vous êtes en mesure de confirmer ces deux informations-là, soit que le gouvernement américain cherche à redessiner notre frontière et qu'on s'est retiré de ces discussions-là en attendant que d'autres négociateurs arrivent à la table?
Bien, tout d'abord, j'ai pas vu ce rapport-là, mais je peux souligner que nous avons tous entendu Donald Trump parler de créer un 51e État du Canada, quelque chose qui ne se passera jamais, que les Canadiens vont jamais accepter, mais qu'il faut prendre au sérieux quand le président le dit, parce que c'est le président qui le dit, mais je peux répéter encore une fois pour nos amis américains que ça ne se passera jamais. Deuxièmement, les négociateurs, je ne sais pas de quelle négociation on pourrait être en train de parler. Il n'y a aucune négociation qui se passe maintenant avec les Américains. On est en train de souligner à quel point on travaille sur le fentanyl, auquel on est en train de travailler sur différents enjeux, mais il n'y a aucune négociation avec le gouvernement américain sur aucun sujet quelconque maintenant d'importance primordiale.
All right, this concludes
Hier,
today's press
M. Jack
conference.
Mitzing a suggéré de ne pas laisser M. Trump entrer pour la réunion du G7 au Canada, d'une part parce qu'il a un dossier criminel, d'autre part parce qu'il nuit davantage au G7 qu'il l'aide.
Je pense que c'est très facile pour des politiciens de dire tout ce qu'ils veulent, même si c'est peut-être pas une approche raisonnable ou responsable. Il y a beaucoup de ça qui court dans le monde ces jours-ci. Moi, je ne jouerai pas à ce jeu-là. I think it's easy for politicians these days to toss out easy and shocking things to say. We see a lot of it around the world these days. I'm not one of those Canadian politicians that thinks that's a responsible way to lead a country or even carry an important political dialogue.
All right, that concludes today's press conference. Ça va conclure la conférence de
beaucoup,
presse
tout le monde.
aujourd'hui. Merci.